Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always find more information about our program and follow along with us, full episodes and each individual segment on demand, as well as information about all of our partnering stations, including where we're broadcasting live each and every day in your hometown. civiccentertv.com/megacast is the place to go for all of that. In addition, on our homepage, we have a link that's called Local News. You go to that and it takes you to a page we update every single day before our live program with the latest news and information from throughout our community every single day of the week. And we keep that up over the weekends too. It's our Friday show, but you'll be able to keep up with those stories, catch up on the latest happening here in Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan all throughout your weekend before we clear that page and reset it on Monday morning. Our top story making headlines today comes from Frank Witzel at the Detroit Free Press. One of Oakland County's favorite landmarks is about to get a new look. The water tower at the Detroit Zoo is set to be repainted with a new temporary design scheduled to be unveiled either in late July or early August. What will be on the new display? Well, that you'll have to stay tuned for more information on, as the zoo told the Detroit Free Press and other members of the media that the new paint job would be a, quote, surprise, end closed quote. The only thing we do know about this new design is it will be in commemoration of the Detroit Zoo's 95th anniversary in suburban Detroit. The cost is also unknown at this time, with the new design expected to come via a vinyl wrap around the current design of the water tower, similar as Witzel wrote to what some of you may use if you cover your cars over the summer or the winter seasons. The iconic water tower served the people of the nearby area as a display for both the city of Royal Oak and the Detroit Zoo, as well as providing water pressure relief to the quote-unquote North Woodward area from 1932 until 1984, when the water tower itself was discontinued operationally and even considered for a short time for demolition. Of course, the zoo and the Royal Oak City government kept the tower up and running, where now just 40 years later, just about, it's become a Metro Detroit landmark and will continue to do so, generating some interest as this 95th anniversary is on its way, and they're going to look to celebrate that. One of the many ways they will is by commemorating 95 years of serving Metro Detroit through their water tower's temporary design. While the zoo, as we know it, opened in 1932 in Royal Oak along with its water tower companion, some argue that the Detroit Zoo's anniversary actually should date back to the 1880s, as the when it was the Detroit Zoological Garden across from the site that would later become known as none other than Tiger Stadium in downtown Detroit. As for the water tower, the beloved design of a variety of animals out for a walk with the purple sky background that reads simply the Detroit Zoo, the design we've seen out there for 21 years, that has been in place since 2002. Now, over 20 years later, a new special design is on its way, expected to remain up and visible to Oakland County and those visiting the Detroit Zoo until sometime in spring of next year. That full article on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page today. In addition, making headlines this morning from the Detroit News' Jakar Amory. Good news from our friends at the Michigan Science Center, who have developed a new relationship with NASA. The Science Center announced this week that they have received an $800,000 grant from NASA to boost educational efforts in STEM for kids throughout our local area. The grant will help support learning experienced in advanced STEM or science, technology, engineering, and math activities, as well as earth science, space exploration, of course, with NASA involved, and over more than the next 3 years as part of NASA's Teams Engaged Affiliated Museums and Informational Institutions initiative. Say that 5 times fast. Or just simply narrow it down to saying Teams 2, the NASA Teams 2 program, is what all of this and the grant money is all about. In total, about $0.8 million of the $3.8 million spent nationwide in grants from NASA will be sent to the Michigan Science Center in Detroit, one of 21 museums and other educational institutions throughout these United States that will be receiving this funding. The Michigan Science Center says that it will use the money to support their Urban Skies Equitable Universe, using open space to empower youth to explore their solar system and beyond project, a project that's still currently in the works and does not yet have a concrete start date at this time. In regards to the hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money coming to the Michigan Science Center from NASA, the Science Center's director, Dr. Christian Greiner, said, quote, "We are delighted to be one of the recipients of the NASA Team 2 grant. We believe that by engaging students, caregivers, and education in exploring NASA's missions and discoveries, we can empower them to unlock their potential and make significant contributions to the scientific advancements of the future." So congratulations to our friends at the Michigan Science Center on this accomplishment, partnering with NASA. Hundreds of thousands of dollars about to be infused into this learning center in Detroit to help further education in the STEM areas for kids all throughout not only the city of Detroit, but also the metropolitan area through our friends at the Michigan Science Center. Really interesting article, plenty of more details on how this will help the Michigan Science Center, one of 21 institutions across the United States to receive part of this $3.8 million in NASA grants through their Teams 2 project. You can find that information by clicking through this article on our local news page this morning, civiccentertv.com. In addition, making headlines today on our local news page from Bridge, Michigan's Janelle D. James. If you were near my area of town in Wixom last night, you may have seen some fireworks just after dark as the sun went down. Well, that might be a rarity going forward here in southeastern Michigan and throughout the Great Lakes state, even as the 4th of July holiday is rapidly approaching. Already festivals that were including fireworks in their plans in Oxford, here in Oakland County, as well as outside of our area in Potterville and Frankenmuth, all recently canceled their fireworks at these events, and all for the same reason, the possibility and really the increased danger of fire. It's no secret that this has been an exceptionally dry spring, and already in the first couple of days, a rather dry summer in our state, with many local communities and the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, or DNR, suspending burning due to the elevated risk of fire. There have been very few days of significant rainfall in Michigan of late, with Paul Rogers from the Department of Natural Resources saying, quote, "We are experiencing a drought across the majority of the northern lower peninsula," and close quote, in particular. The National Weather Service recently also issued a number of hazardous weather warnings, with rain not expected again this week until Sunday and into the early portion of next week for much of lower Michigan. Burn bans are also continuing to be in place all throughout Michigan in places like Battle Creek, both Lansing and East Lansing, as well as Meridian Township in the capital area, and more parts of Michigan as well. Lansing's burn ban is set to terminate next week, Friday, June 30th, but already City Fire Marshal Mark Berger told Bridge that they are considering extending that ban even past the Independence Day holiday. But this is where things get a little bit interesting legally, because in the state of Michigan, municipalities, local counties, and other organizations and institutions are going to have to decide safety or the law, and how do you balance those two? As Bridge Michigan notes in this article linked on our website on civiccentertv.com on our local news page today, quote, Michigan law prohibits municipalities from banning fireworks from June 29th through July the 4th. Residents can use fireworks on private property, but lighting them on public property, including sidewalks, streets, schools, and at churches, is illegal. Violators can be fined upwards of $500, and closed quote. But again, the operative part of that sentence is Michigan law prohibits municipalities from banning fireworks from June 29th, that's next week Thursday, through the 4th of July holiday, which is a week from Monday. And so with burn bans already in place and those already involving fireworks, how might that impact these burn bans in these cities? Could you see maybe Lansing, and as I said, it was noted in this article, Lansing Fire Marshal Mark Berger saying they're considering extending their burn ban past the Independence Day holiday. May that simply exclude fireworks? More than likely it will in this case, because of the prohibitions in place for municipalities to suspend fireworks in Michigan. Or could we see a fireworks ban from the state of Michigan to prevent fires in select parts of the state that are in a much drier situation and may be more apt for wildfires at this time? As we know, there's over 3,000 acres of northern Michigan that were burned during a wildfire just a few weeks ago in northern Michigan. That spread smoke not only throughout our state in the air, but also across the nation, along with Canadian wildfires as well, that also impacted significantly the air quality in Michigan. Could that play a factor going forward? You'll have to stay tuned for that as we get more information, and also as the weather patterns change over the next week or so. Again, we're expecting rain over the weekend and into the early parts of next week. That may play a factor in the dryness of the state of Michigan, and whether or not some of these burn bans that are expiring next week, such as that in Lansing and other parts of the state, may continue, as well as what the state may do in terms of regulations on fireworks as we approach Independence Day here in Michigan. Read that full article from our friends at Bridge Michigan today on our local news page, civiccentertv.com. And you'll be able to click through that and read everything on that article, as well as other supporting information, and keep up to date on that story as well. Finally, making news this morning on our local news page from Corey Woods at MLive. The Detroit Pistons last night selected 5th overall in the NBA draft, selecting Oscar Thompson, from the Overtime Elite League, one selection after his brother Amen Thompson was taken by the Houston Rockets at number 4. This pick was all about one thing, and that is defense, defense, defense. Although his shooting could use some improvement, and certainly the Pistons could use a better shooting on their team as a whole, having been a significant hamper on their ability to win more than 17 games a season ago when they were the worst team in the league. Many complained on social media and in the pundit sphere that the Detroit Pistons took another uber-talented swingman who is a spotty shooter at best, instead of maybe taking someone that's a more steady shooter that can be more of a 3-and-D kind of player, like a Cam Whitmore out of Villanova, who I actually preferred at the number 5 overall pick. And then he fell into down to the 20th pick, going to the aforementioned Houston Rockets in the Western Conference instead. So the Pistons had a chance to take this guy, had a chance to go get someone that could both play quality defense and shoot the ball efficiently from the field, but instead went for a guy that's got a little bit more of a higher ceiling, so to speak. The potential here with Oscar Thompson is quite high. He's already an excellent defender, only going to get better under NBA coaching and learning from professionals that have been through this league, like head coach Monty Williams, who spent a number of years playing in the NBA and has been known for developing talent and helping them reach their potential. That being said, the shooting element of things is still very much a problem, with inefficient shooting from many of the players on the Detroit Pistons, and really only one guy you can count on consistently from the field being Bojan Bogdanovic, who, for all we know, may not even be on this team in the next few weeks, with many teams interested in picking up picking up Bojan Bogdanovic, and especially if they're contending potentially for a playoff spot or for a championship next season. He would be a great piece on their team at a rather affordable price. So now that leaves the question, who are these teams' shooters? Who are the guys that are supposed to be getting shots? And since when is defense also not critically important? That's kind of my rebuttal to that. Many people on social media, fans, pundits, analysts, and more question whether the Pistons really filled the needs they needed to fill last night, focusing on defense, but not so much focusing on shooting. That I don't think is much the case. They needed a wing that could play on day one, that could be an impact player potentially on day one, but if not, within the first couple of years of getting into the league. They got that in Ausar Thompson. He's coming in on day one, already a very good defender, and sure, shooting can be improved with coaching, but his inefficient shooting in overtime elite and even in high school are still some glaring issues here. But defense was also a glaring issue for the Pistons. One of the worst defensive teams in basketball in 2022-2023, and already an instant improvement bringing in a guy like Thompson to this team. It's not my preference, but it's a good pick considering the arguable can't-miss guys were in the top 3 picks in this draft. And as you may or may not know, the number 5 overall pick traditionally is not in the top 3. And so with that being the case, the Pistons kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. With the number 5 overall pick, they got to choose shooting or defense. In this case, they choose defense. The Pistons also made a move later on in the first round, trading their second round pick, the 31st overall pick in last night's draft, as well as 2 additional future second round picks to the Boston Celtics in exchange for the 25th overall pick, who was guard Marcus Sasser, a senior out of the University of Houston. He's older and having been a senior last year at Houston, entering this NBA draft. It's kind of going against the tradition we've seen in recent years where teams really aim for those younger players, those guys who were one and done out of college at 19 years old or 20 years old early on in their college careers, but entering the NBA draft. Instead, going with a guy with a little more of a veteran presence, 4 years of playing college ball at the University of Houston. An excellent shooter who has only gotten better as his career has gone on. Ended his career overall a 40% shooter from the field, 38% from three-point and beyond, and improving in both of those areas efficiency-wise over the last 2 seasons significantly, also getting a lot more playing time too, which shows he's becoming a better shooter over time. He's an already efficient shooter, and all reports and all scouting on this guy show he's very capable on defense as well, even against bigger players, with him only being about 6'2". So older, more experienced, more day one ready, and something that the Pistons needed, a guard who can shoot and can defend off the bench. That leaves one more question. What does this mean for former top 10 pick Killian Hayes, who has been struggling, especially offensively for the Pistons, but has been a quality player for the most part on the defensive side of the ball? Perhaps it's the beginning of the end for Killian Hayes, or maybe the Pistons see him as being an off-ball guard that's more focused on defense and spreading the floor and facilitating on the offensive end rather than being someone that can be relied on to score the basketball. That's yet to be seen. Plenty of offseason left for the Detroit Pistons. Plenty of pieces on the younger side that they can move around this offseason to other teams looking to add some depth and build their team or rebuild for the future. And the Pistons have a ton of cap space too to go into free agency and target someone that is more of a 3-and-D guy, a veteran presence, maybe even a familiar face like Jeremy Grant on the short list of guys the Pistons may consider this offseason. Cam Johnson, a restricted free agent from the Brooklyn Nets, who's played most of his career so far with the Phoenix Suns before being part of the trade deadline deal that sent superstar Kevin Durant to the Valley to play for the Phoenix Suns. Could he be coming to Detroit next season and be an impact player in the starting lineup right away? That's going to be seen in the next few weeks as Troy Weaver, the Pistons general manager, and company continue forward in this offseason. You can find even more of those thoughts on Ausar Thompson and others drafted by the Pistons on Thursday night, as well as their offseason, by reading this article from Corey Woods at MLive on our local news page today. In my opinion, the Pistons are set up well for the future at the wing with this pick. Thompson has a high ceiling. His shooting can improve, although I wouldn't expect it to take big leaps. But you're not looking for Ausar Thompson to come in day one and be the number 1 or number 2 option scoring on this team. Hell, with free agency, with potentially Bojan Bogdanovic still being on this team, he's not going to be a top 4 scoring target on this team. That's all about defense. And I love the pickup of Marcus Sasser too, moving up a couple of picks. Yeah, you're giving up second-round picks for a couple of years down the road, but often those aren't very impactful on your team anyway, or are throw-ins to add a little more depth to a trade package. Anyway, you move up 6 picks, you get a quality guard that can be your backup point guard, a 3-and-D guy, covers for Killian Hayes' weaknesses at the worst, or at the best, maybe even replaces Killian Hayes altogether and gets rid of those weaknesses. So overall, I wouldn't say it's a knocked out of the park draft for the Detroit Pistons, but you can't really ever say that for any draft or any move when it involves young players who haven't played a single second of basketball in the NBA until down the road a few months when you see the summer league, when you see the preseason, and certainly when you get a few months in to the regular season, you'll have a better idea of just how good or bad this draft night may have been for the Detroit Pistons. That full article from MLive, as well as all of our top stories making headlines today and all throughout the week on our local news page this morning, civiccentertv.com. We'll take a break. On the other side, it's our weekly business and economics segment with Dr. Michael Greiner from Oakland University. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's what white people think. You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you.
I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always join us online and our partnering stations here in Oakland County and all throughout the Great Lakes State on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. You'll find links to all of our partnering stations, including community television and radio stations serving your hometown 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Find us on those networks and other original programming all about your local area from partners such as Lake Orion and Orion Townships on TV, who join us live to tape every day, and other live partners joining us in the Lakes area such as the Media Network of Waterford and our friends on the radio side at 88.1 The Biff. All of those details, civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you'll also find all of our full shows and each individual segment on demand. Joining us now on the program, as he does each and every week, to talk about the latest in the economy and the business sector, is Dr. Michael Greiner, an assistant professor of management at Oakland University's School of Business Administration. Dr. Greiner, thank you as always for being with us.
It's great to be here, Tyler. Greetings again from Europe, where Gretchen Whitmer was until yesterday.
Yes, yeah, Gretchen Whitmer ending her European tour and heading back to Michigan yesterday. She's been there for quite a while, for a few weeks on a summit, trying to build new relationships with businesses in Europe. And some good news that we actually talked about earlier on this week on the Megacast, a European company that focuses in research and development into electric vehicle production. It's on its way to Oakland County, bringing with it a multi-million-dollar facility coming to our local area and over 200, or about 200 jobs. I think it was 198 jobs on its way. So tell us about that partnership and what that means for the automotive community here in Oakland County and southeastern Michigan.
Well, I think it just shows kind of the continued strength that we have in Southeast Michigan. I mean, we forget about the fact that we've developed essentially the center of excellence for automotive, and it's a global center really here in Southeastern Michigan. And where you hear about companies establishing manufacturing facilities maybe in other states or other countries, the thing that you see repeatedly is that they want to establish their research and development facilities here in Michigan. And we've got the expertise here. We've got the universities that are training graduates who are skilled in the kind of talents that they'll need to be able to do this kind of research. And as a result, we are still a strong place that people want to come to when they want to do auto R&D. And what's more is I think it just shows that, still we are a vital place. We're still attracting investment. And I think that it's a positive sign, too, especially as we're going into this era now where we're kind of shifting away from internal combustion engines into the electric automobiles, that we're still going to be very competitive there as well. So I think it's a very positive development and hopefully really just the beginning of more to come.
And this summit or series of meetings, whatever you want to call it for Governor Whitmer, going to Europe, that's not fostering new relationships. It was really focused more on bolstering those that were already in place, with Michigan being a place that, because of the automotive industry, because of other industrial sectors that are based here in Detroit and in Oakland County and in the Tri-County area, that this has already been a very strong partnership between European companies and the Metro Detroit area for many years.
Yeah, it has been. And I'll tell you, you see it all over the place in Europe. Right now I'm actually drinking a Diet Pepsi, and you see signs for Coca-Cola all over the place. But specifically for southeastern Michigan, I'll tell you, everywhere you look, you're seeing Ford vehicles, you're seeing Chevy trucks. We have a very strong presence in Europe, and I don't think people understand the full extent of the impact that we have. Interestingly enough, we talk about China a lot as being such a strong trading partner for the United States, and it is, no question. But our largest trading partners are, in this order, Canada, Mexico, and then the European Union, and with France really being a strong central part of that. And so we have this strong relationship with these European companies. As you're driving up I-75, for example, you see the company Forcia, which is a large automotive manufacturer. Well, guess what? They're a French company. And so you see this kind of relationship here. Same thing with Stellantis, with its connections with Europe. And everywhere you go throughout Europe, you see the strong connection between American companies and European companies and the impact that they're having with this kind of transoceanic trade right now.
Yeah, well, the Governor Gretchen Whitmer Business Summit and Recruiting Trip, don't put that on a T-shirt, copyright, trademark, all of the above. Don't put that on T-shirts without my approval. That may be over, but the Dr. Michael Greiner European Tour continues on. And as you're there, and you brought this up as we talked earlier on in the week, it's interesting to see the comparisons and the contrasts and contrast between Europe's current economic situation and ours here in the U.S. Americans love to complain about our economy is so bad, our economy is in a really bad spot, but other places of the world are feeling what's going on in business and economics too right now, and are feeling the effects of inflation. So how are those really being felt in comparison from what you see every day here in Michigan, where you are usually each and every week with us, in comparison to the last few weeks you've been over in Europe?
Well, I'll tell you something. If there's anything that Americans need, especially Michiganians need, to feel good about our economy, is to come to Europe for a little while, and especially England, which has been decimated, I got to tell you, with Brexit and with inflation. They just announced, actually, that Britain is still struggling with 8.7% inflation. This is after we've received inflation figures that have us down around 4%. So you can see the impact. And the continent of Europe is still up above 6%. So in the United States, we're doing much better than they are in Europe. And in fact, the Bank of England just increased their interest rates by a full 0.5%, which is something, again, we haven't seen the Fed in the United States doing for quite some time. So, it's clear that inflation has had a big impact here. But I got to tell you, as someone who's been in Europe periodically over the past number of years, one of the most striking things is the strength of the U.S. dollar right now. I remember back when the euro first became a thing, and it started out where there was parity, essentially €1 for $1, and then the euro quickly zoomed up in value to the point where it was practically $2 for every euro. Well, now we're back down to about parity, and in fact, there was a period there last summer where it dropped to the point where it was actually less than $1 per euro, just showing the incredible strength of the dollar. But it's even more evident, again, across the channel in England, where the pound, which has been absolutely hammered for various reasons, but certainly Brexit has been part of it. And what we've seen now is that it is practically at parity with the dollar, which is striking, again, for people who've been in Europe in the past, because it wasn't all that long ago that it used to be $3 to every pound. And the last time I was in Europe, actually, it was $2 to every pound. Well, now you're practically at £1 per dollar, which just shows how much the U.S. dollar has increased in strength. So the reality is, actually, if you're able to get over to Europe, Europe is a great deal for American travelers, but it also shows the strength of the American economy relative to what's going on in Europe. One thing that is kind of a downside, though, is it makes it so that imports are essentially better deals for Americans than our exports are for our European trading partners. And that has had an impact on the trade deficit, which has increased a little bit over the past year. But again, a large part of that just shows the strength of the U.S. economy, the strength of the U.S. consumers, and how we've been kind of powering things along, despite the fact that there's been really this global slowdown as a result of both the war in Ukraine and the results of the pandemic crisis.
Joining us on the program today is Dr. Michael Greiner, an assistant professor of management at Oakland University's School of Business Administration. He joins us every single week to talk about the latest in economics and the business community and news here in Michigan and all throughout the U.S. and around the world. You can find those segments all on demand, civiccentertv.com/megacast each and every day. Dr. Greiner, something that's been being looked at from the federal government side, particularly from the executive branch, and President Joe Biden, has been additional fees that are being incurred for credit cards and for and purchases of particularly concert tickets and fees that are associated with that. Something that President Biden brought up earlier on in the year, particularly as people were looking to get tickets early on in the Taylor Swift Eras tour as that began. And now it's really being something that he's honing in on and trying to put new regulations in place to cut some of those hidden fees out. What's being done on that front, especially now as we're in summer and people in Michigan are looking to go to concerts all throughout the state?
Yeah, well, it's not just concerts. They're looking at credit cards. They're looking at airlines. They're looking at hotels. You know, we're so used to paying these junk fees in the United States that we almost forget about how much of our income is being eaten up by them. You know, I bought some tickets not too long ago to see the Beach Boys when they're coming to Oakland University, actually. And I couldn't believe it after I paid through Ticketmaster. The actual cost of the ticket was almost double what was advertised as being the cost of the ticket once they added in all the extra fees. And this is something where everything was being done online. They weren't sending me a physical ticket. Excuse me. Everything was paid for by credit card. So it's not like they were incurring extra costs. It's just that they've gotten so used to adding on all these fees, and American consumers have gotten so used to just paying them that we forget about them. I'll tell you, a shocking experience to any American coming to Europe is going into a store and paying for something, or going into a restaurant and paying for something and literally paying the amount that is on the price tag. You see something that is listed on a menu and you order it, that's the price you pay. There's no expectation for tips essentially to supplement the income that the workers are getting because they earn good pay. There's no need for businesses to potentially kind of sneak in these extra fees and costs because that's kind of the way that they do things. And in fact, for that matter, even with taxes, the taxes are included on the front end. So you don't have to kind of add that tax on at the end that we're so used to doing in the United States. And when you leave Europe, you actually get back any taxes that you paid on that. So it ends up being an even better deal for Americans. So it really is shocking kind of the contrast that we got where we've gotten so used to these costs. Well, you know, we've seen where President Biden has talked about trying to attack some of these fees because, you know, we don't even realize it just kind of eats up things. And it's almost silent inflation that we don't feel, you know, where they decrease the size of the box slightly. You may be paying the same amount, but per amounts that you're getting less per dollar. And certainly fees are one way that they also kind of eat into the amount of money that is available to us. We see it with airlines, we see it with credit cards, we see it with concert tickets. And I think that American consumers are getting tired of it, and that's why you're starting to see the politicians respond to it.
And just how much of an effect do these fees tend to have on the average consumer when they're buying concert tickets, when they're buying airline tickets? I mean, if it's so big of an issue that's being looked at by the president, that's being looked at by our representatives and our senators in Congress, it's got to be pretty significant on the average consumer.
It is, yes. And like credit card fees, for example, we've seen the credit card fees now go up to an average of more than $35 per person. You know, we don't even realize that we're paying these things just because they get baked into the costs here and there. And I'll tell you, I think that most people would agree that it'd be a great luxury to be able to actually pay the amount that you're seeing listed and know that that's all you owe. Because, again, we as consumers, we're just getting hammered from all directions. You know, we're seeing things with, for example, airlines. As much as 50% of the costs now are additional fees that are being levied on consumers, and with concert tickets, as much as 100% of the costs are being additional costs are being levied on consumers as a result of these additional fees. So you can see where this is just something that eats up the amount of money that we're spending on different things, and really makes it harder for us to be able to enjoy our standard of living.
Yeah, it's more like 2 fees for every ticket if you're trying to see the Beach Boys at Oakland University going forward. Not so much anymore, well, with these new regulations in place. Dr. Michael Greiner joining us from Oakland University by way of Europe on today's edition of the Megacast. You can always join us each and every week for our weekly business and economics segment. You can also find those on demand if you're just tuning in or you've missed any of our other ones in the past few weeks. CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast. And for more information on Oakland University programs, visit oakland.edu. Dr. Greiner, a couple more minutes with you today before we'll need to move on. Anything else in the economy, both here in the state of Michigan or worldwide, that we should be paying attention to at this time that may creep up and have a bigger impact in the next week or so?
I'm sorry. You just went out. You just kind of went out on me there. What was your question there? We had a little internet. I think we had a little internet glitch.
Paying attention to.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just looking and see if there's anything else we should.
Yeah, definitely. I think that coming up, it's going to be great to see if the state is going to be able to deal with its budget. That, to me, is really one of the biggest things that we're looking at right now, which is we've got ongoing negotiations right now between the legislature and the governor to try to resolve our budget for the state of Michigan. And, it's kind of hard to project these things. The way that the people wonder, why can't the state just kind of say, this is the amount of money we've got coming in versus this is the amount of money that we're going to be spending? Well, it's entirely based upon estimates of how much do we think is going to be coming in over the next year, and that depends a lot upon the economy. How well people are doing economically then results in how much they end up paying in taxes. Well, from my understanding, job number one of the governor, once she's back in Lansing, is going to be able to try to resolve that budget and make sure that we're on a firm financial footing going forward.
You can always join us for more of these segments each and every week on the Megacast with Dr. Michael Greiner from Oakland University. Dr. Greiner, thank you for your time as always.
It's great to be here. Thanks. I'm looking forward to being back with you in Michigan.
Yeah, we will see you back in the Great Lakes State next week here on the Megacast. CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast to keep up to date with us, and Oakland.edu to keep up with all the programs at Oakland University, including in their School of Business Administration. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, one of over 350 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform will join us. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID. We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always join us online, civiccentertv.com/Megacast, and find out where you can find us on cable television and on the radio from community television stations serving your local community. Find us statewide online and on streaming on your smartphones and smart TVs from partners such as My Michigan TV, and always where you can find us on demand for full episodes and each individual segment, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. One of the most important things we can do as we are developing our next generation of citizens, of workers, of contributors to society is to tap into their creativity and encourage them to grow that creativity over time, and in some cases turn that into careers. One local nonprofit is doing that each and every day. Joining us on the Megacast is one of over 350 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform. Stephanie Steinberg is the Executive Director of Coaching Detroit Forward and joins us now on the Megacast. Stephanie, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you on as you join us to tell us more about Coaching Detroit Forward. For those that aren't familiar with your organization, tell us some of the work that you do and the programs you're providing here in Metro Detroit.
Sure. Well, we offer primarily summer camps for Detroit high school students. The camps are focused on writing and photography. So this will be our fourth summer offering the programs. And we have a team of about 30 different professional coaches who teach the students. Most of them are journalists and authors and professional photographers. And then at the end of the summer, we take the stories and the photos that the students produce and turn them into a professional magazine called Perspectives Magazine. It's a print publication featuring their work. And the students get a professional byline in a print publication. So it's really great for them.
And so where did this organization begin? What's the origin story of this project, of this organization, and giving these opportunities to kids in Detroit to do something that they may not otherwise have opportunities to do in their youth?
Sure. So I'm also the founder of the Detroit Writing Room, which was launched in 2019. 9 months before the pandemic hit. And we do have a team of about 30 coaches who primarily coach adults in writing, whether they're writing for a book or a website or need some help with their resume. We also have graphic design and photography coaches as well. So we wanted to offer an opportunity for Detroit youth to gain access to these professional coaches, but not have to pay for those services. So we started Coaching Detroit Forward a couple months after the Detroit Writing Room launched. So it is our nonprofit arm. And we're able to offer these camps and workshops and other opportunities for students for free, thanks to grants and donors and people who support us in the community.
And so who's involved in teaching these camps? Are these professionals that are in the industry volunteering? Or are they hired workers? How does that dynamic work between those teaching and the students?
Sure. So we have journalists from all the major Metro Detroit publications, including the Detroit Free Press, the Detroit News, the Michigan Chronicle, Our Magazine, as well as some national journalists as well, because we're able to Zoom them in sometimes. So we do span outside of Michigan in terms of our coaches, but they are paid professionals. It's important to us to be able to compensate, professional writers and photographers for their work and for their teaching. But we'll sometimes take volunteers if someone wants to help out and join us on a photography walk for our photo camp and go through deep downtown Detroit with the students. They're welcome to. We are looking for professional photographers, professional writers to work with the students.
Stephanie, if parents know that their kids may have an interest in this, or they think that this will be beneficial to their kids as they continue to grow and continue to learn through their youth and teen years, how do they get their kids involved in these camps?
Yeah, so typically we launch the applications in the spring. You do have to apply to attend because it is a free program, and we want to make sure that the students are interested in either writing or photography or graphic design. So typically, they can just go to our website, coachingdetroitforward.org, and we still have a couple spots left in our advanced photography camp for this summer, which will be held in August at Mary Grove College. That camp is taught by Coach Sacred Overstreet Amos, who is the founder of Moon Reflections Photography and has a studio at Mary Grove. So if there is a Detroit high school student out there who maybe already has some basic photography skills and wants to get better and wants to learn Photoshop and Lightroom to edit their photos, that advanced camp is a great opportunity. And like I said, we have a couple spots still available. So hop on that opportunity as soon as possible, and you can apply online at coachingdetroitforward.org.
Yeah, there are a couple places you can find more information on Coaching Detroit Forward, both for the summer camps and other ways that you can get involved with the organization. As Stephanie said, coachingdetroitforward.org is their direct website. You can also find more information about the nonprofit, ways you can get involved, ways that you can help them, and over 350 other charities and nonprofits across our local area on sharedetroit.org. Joining us on the program today is Stephanie Steinberg, the Executive Director of Coaching Detroit Forward. You mentioned that there are some spaces still available for the advanced photography camp this summer. In terms of signing up, in terms of applying, what sort of requirements are in place for students to be eligible to attend these free camps?
Good question. They should either attend a Detroit high school or be a resident of the city of Detroit. Those are the two requirements to be able to attend on scholarship. For those in Metro Detroit, though, who don't live in the city or attend a Detroit high school, we do have spots available in our journalism camp, specifically for Metro Detroit students to attend that program as well. There is a tuition fee to attend, but we also have a couple of scholarship opportunities for non-Detroit students as well. So we're pretty much full for the summer for the journalism camp, but feel free to reach out if there is a last-minute student that absolutely wants to learn storytelling and writing skills. We might be able to make some room.
And talking to so many nonprofits through Share Detroit and other means that we do on this show, so much of what we hear that's important is not so much what is offered by these nonprofits, their services, their resources, their programs, but the ways that they have true impact on the community. So specifically for those in the city of Detroit and those kids in the Detroit high schools that these programs are offered free to over the summer, how have those had an impact on the youth and the teen communities in the city of Detroit?
Several ways. First off, a lot of the Detroit high schools might not offer a journalism program like a newspaper or a yearbook or a photography club. So for students who are interested in those fields, this offers a way for them to get exposure to them and also meet professionals working in the fields, so that if they do want to potentially get an internship or a job one day in photography or writing somehow, they are connected to professionals who can help them. Second, we do offer the ability to help with their college applications. So for students who are working on writing their college essay or might need someone to write a letter of recommendation for them, our coaches are always available to do that. And we were very excited. We had about 4 students get accepted to the University of Michigan this year alone, that we had 4 coaches help them with their applications or their letters. So that was very exciting for us. But also the programs give them an opportunity to write a story or take photos and tell a story that they care about in their community. We let them decide what story they want to write, whether it's a news story, sports story, social action oriented story, they get to pick. And often our students win awards for their stories and photos. Just recently, the Society for Professional Journalists Detroit recognized 14 students with awards a couple of weeks ago for their work in the 2022 Perspectives magazine. So the students get professional recognition that they can put on their college applications, or if they're applying to internships, it's something they can talk about. And it really boosts their confidence and self-esteem too, to say, hey, I'm an award-winning photographer or writer at the age of 17. So we're helping them on multiple levels.
And what's great about the organization too is that it's providing opportunities that may not otherwise be there, and that can often be the difference maker that catapults somebody that has an interest in creative writing, an interest in journalistic writing, photography, or other creative endeavors to actually be able to know what they need to do to pursue that as a career, as an educational path, or as both. And so in terms of results from those that have attended these camps in the future, how has that helped to catapult them forward? We've already spoken a little bit about how it's helped them get into some of the amazing schools we have across the state of Michigan, like U of M.
Yeah, one thing we didn't discuss was some of our photography students actually turned photography into a side business. After going through our program, we've had a couple students launch their own websites and start taking jobs for, senior portraits or prom photos. Some of them, are for hire now. So it really has launched a side business for them, which is really fun to see, especially the photographers on Instagram who are showing their work, after the camp ends. And often, I should say, we give professional cameras for the students to use for the photography camp. And then at the end of camp, they have the opportunity to purchase that camera at a deep discount. And so last year, the majority of students actually took advantage of that and bought their cameras. So we've been watching them continue to use the camera and practice their skills throughout the year. And they reach out when they have questions. So we're there for them long after the 2 weeks of camp ends. We're there for them for their entire careers if they want us. So it's only been 4 years since we've started, but from those 4 years, we've seen students continue to use their skills, and many of them have now gone on to college and are majoring in journalism, communications, photography, film, a lot of creative fields. So it'll be fun to see once they graduate college what they end up doing, after graduation.
Yeah, opportunity and resources are so important, especially in creative fields, getting started, figuring out what direction you're going to go in, and ultimately making that a direction you go in, whether it is, as you said, Stephanie, a side business doing photography, or just pursuing that as an interest and as a hobby, or even going into a career field like the journalistic career fields, where there's so much opportunity now with social media, with the expansion and the variation of media. These opportunities are really important. CoachingDetroitForward.org is their website to find more information. You can also get in contact with Stephanie and the team at Coaching Detroit Forward by sending them an email, coachingdetroitforward@gmail.com. or call them 313-788-7044, 313-788-7044. In terms of the greater community, these services are aimed at helping catapult the next generation of creatives in Detroit and in the metro area onto great careers, or pursuing their interests, developing these hobbies and these skills that they'll use throughout the rest of their life. But for the community that wants to, if they want to get involved, if they want to help these efforts forward, what are some ways that they can go about doing that?
Sure. Well, we always love donations. Donations help us buy supplies for the students. We do give them daily lunch and snacks, T-shirts, and, we compensate our coaches. So donations also help us pay for our mentors. So that's one way. Of course, we always love donations. But if you want, you can also just buy a magazine. We have Perspectives magazine available online to purchase. All the proceeds support our summer camps for this year and go back into the program. So you can get something tangible for purchasing a magazine. But again, follow us on social media. We love just people supporting our students and commenting, saying, hey, great photo you took, or I love that story you wrote. Even if there's people that the students don't know, they see those comments and they really gain a lot from that. So just support our students. That's all we ask.
More information can be found on Coaching Detroit Forward, or call them 313-788-7044. 7044. Another great place to look for Coaching Detroit Forward, and hundreds upon hundreds of other charities and nonprofits right here in our local area is sharedetroit.org. Go to their Find a Nonprofit section right in the middle of their homepage. Search Coaching Detroit Forward. You'll find opportunities to volunteer, ways you can donate, where to get in contact with them, and find them on social media, where on Facebook, Coaching Detroit Forward, on Twitter at Coaching Detroit, and on Instagram, Coaching Detroit Forward. Joining us on the program today is the Executive Director of Coaching Detroit Forward, Stephanie Steinberg. Stephanie, just a couple more minutes before we'll need to wrap things up for the day. Anything else we haven't discussed about the programs that are available, other ways that people can get involved, or what we should be on the lookout for from Coaching Detroit Forward in the near future?
Yeah, so one exciting thing is this year specifically, we're going to be showcasing the photography camp students' work at the Empowerment Plan, which is another Detroit nonprofit. They're an amazing organization that launched years ago. They hire low-income and homeless individuals to make coats that they're actually sleeping bags that turn into coats for the homeless. So we're going to be there this fall and posting all of our photography students' work on their white walls that they currently have in their headquarters, so that when the seamstresses are working, they'll have some beautiful Detroit photography to look at. So our students' work is going to get into the public, and we're going to have our Perspectives magazine launch party there as well. But the magazine for 2023 will be coming out this fall. And I do just want to quickly thank all of our foundations and grant partners who support us since the beginning. The Fisher Foundation has supported our photography camp in particular, and we would just not exist without them. And the Dow Jones News Fund also really supports our journalism camp. So if there are other foundations out there in Metro Detroit that want to support writing and the arts, we are always looking for more grant partners to support our work.
You can find more information and also find ways to apply for their advanced photography camp for high school students in Detroit. Still a couple spots available at coachingdetroitforward.org, or give them a call, 313-788-7044. Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Share Detroit as well.
Yeah, glad to have you on, and always appreciate our partnership with Share Detroit, getting a greater perspective on all the good things happening in our community. People doing a lot of work day in and day out, both paid and volunteer, to support a number of different communities, including our kids and our teens, our high school students in Detroit and the metro area. That includes Coaching Detroit Forward. Again, their website is coachingdetroitforward.org, coachingdetroitforward.org. They are the nonprofit wing of the Detroit Writing Room, who you can find more information on detroitwritingroom.com as well. ShareDetroit.org is the place to go to find more information on Coaching Detroit Forward and over 300 other charities and nonprofits supported on their platform in the city of Detroit and all throughout the metro area, including right here in Oakland County. That is going to do it for this week's editions of the Megacast. As always, you can keep up to date with us and find our full episodes and each individual segment on demand anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, available on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. In addition, that's the place to go to find even more original programming about Oakland County and about your hometown in particular, from partners all throughout the Great Lakes State and around our area here in Oakland County. Community television, community radio stations, and more. All of their links and all their other original programming can be found linked on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Huge thank you to our crew, Jared Clark, our director today, at the controls at My Michigan TV, and broadcasting us all throughout our network. Until next week, I'm Tyler Kieft. Take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.